All right, everybody, welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast, where we bring you insights and conversations with top experts in leadership, business, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Whether you're a new or seasoned leader, we're here to help you achieve your goals and reach your full potential. Now, before we get started, I want to bring you to one of our latest resources. If you're retiring from the military and stepping into the corporate world, we have a resource that helps you prepare to start your new corporate career and make the transition smoother. Our specially designed checklist for military veterans is available for download on our website, renownedleadership.com. So make sure you take advantage of this tool to ensure your successful transition into your new role. In addition, we're also really excited to announce our partnership with the Career Winner Circle, or CWC. They have a roster of top-notch executive coaches and an amazing pool of resources for their clients. To learn more about CWC and how they can help you on your leadership journey, visit their website, careerwinnercircle.com. And if you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, take the next step in your journey, schedule a complimentary coaching consultation with us or me at renownedleadership.com. We're here to help you achieve your goals and take your leadership to the next level. So welcome back, everybody, to the journey of the workplace hero, from average employee to outstanding performer. This is a 10-episode podcast series that is specifically designed to just help you take your career to the next level and become a hero of your workplace. If you're ready to break away from the crowd and become a standout performer in your workplace, this series is 100% for you. With topics ranging from leadership and communication to time management, and far beyond that, our expert guests will share their insights and expertise to guide you on your journey to becoming a workplace hero. So get ready to unleash your full potential and transform into the workplace hero your workplace needs. With all that being said, everybody, I am so excited to bring you guys our next guest this week, and she is a really special treat for you guys. She's a good friend of mine. She's a board certified physician and a clinical psychologist as well. And she's here to talk to us for the next 3 weeks. Actually, we're going to be talking about anxiety, stress, depression in your personal life and in the workplace as leaders and employees. And we're going to be going over tips and tricks on how to diffuse these things in our lives, and how to identify when it's becoming a problem. So I really hope you guys are going to enjoy and get a lot out of this conversation with Dr. Christy Walter. She has an amazing program called, you can check out her website, it's doggonedepression.com. And she has an amazing program where she teaches you to deal with anxiety. And it's all online based learning. And she's getting results in months rather than years of the traditional therapy. So if you guys are struggling, or you know someone that's struggling, I highly recommend you go to doggonedepression.com, check out her website and her program, and get yourself or the people in your loved ones, the people in your life, get them the help that they need, and get them introduced to this really interactive and amazing program that Dr. Christy has created. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into our topic for the day, which is anxiety. I give you Dr. Christy Walter, and so here we go. All right, Dr. Christy, thank you so much for joining us again for one more week. And this is the final week we're going to be together. But I'm really excited about this episode because I feel like this episode is really going to have the biggest impact on people. because in the past 2 weeks we've discussed stress and anxiety, what it is, what it looks like, what it does. We discussed a little bit on like how to handle stress and anxiety in yourself. But now we're going to shift focus a little bit, and this week we're going to talk mainly on the stress and anxiety in the workplace for the leaders, how to identify it, how to mitigate it, how to help treat it, and then ultimately, like once they realize the signs and symptoms, like this person needs help, where to go from there and how to get them the help and how to get them um where they need to be. So, guys, I hope you're ready, and I hope you leaders out there got some pens and paper ready to go because Dr. Christy is about to drop some knowledge on you. You ready to drop that bomb, Dr. Christy?
Yeah, ready to rock and roll. You got it.
So, um, I think hands down we can say that stress and anxiety is probably one of the biggest uh contributors when it comes to a toxic work environment. Would you agree to that?
I agree. I think a toxic work environment can produce stress and anxiety. So it's like chicken or the egg. What came first, the toxic work environment, or people feeling stressed and anxious, creating some tension and toxicity. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Right. Okay. So what uh when we look at, and let's be honest, some work environments are just going to be stressful, right? Like you're an ER doctor, that's just a stressful work environment, and there is no way you're going to get around that. A
Right.
police officer, military, a firefighter, like EMTs, like these are all stressful environments. There's no getting around it. But at the same time, we still have to do something, right? Because there are, correct me if I'm wrong here, there are very long lasting effects that are going to go, or there are long lasting effects that are going to happen to a person if they go for continued exposure in these environments
Mhm.
without some sort of uh, treatment or practice or meditate, whatever, right? Like there are very significant effects if you don't address that issue.
Sure, definitely. And I might clarify things a little bit with a real life story. I have a friend who more stressful for her, and what that looked like was inequity in terms of the management feeding leads to her colleague in a disproportionate manner over herself. And she addressed this with HR and with her manager. And what started to happen was more and more negative feedback for her. She wasn't listened to. She didn't have a voice. She wasn't heard, and that culture of discounting her concerns kind of grew, and it got to a point where she was so stressed and anxious. One, she didn't even want to go to work, but two, she was experiencing panic. She was experiencing sleepless nights, insomnia, and it became so intolerable for her that she unfortunately ended up needing to leave her position. And had there been a more collaborative effort with her coworker, her manager, HR, to come to a resolution as opposed to just perpetuating the pattern that was creating so much angst, um, may have been able to change the outcome for her and for the company, because she was the highest top producing person for them. So they lost an incredible salesperson, and she was in a position that she really enjoyed, and she lost that. So everybody lost in that situation. But I think that can happen in work environments where unfair treatment, whether it be perceived bias or actual bias, favoritism, unfair compensation. That was another issue in terms of the compensation for the women in the company versus the men. So those kind of factors can breed this sense of discontent, which can breed more and more anxiety and stress, and it can, mushroom cloud from there. So that, I mean, that's one factor, not the only factor, but inequity, mistreatment, favoritism, something to be avoided at all costs in order to maintain a healthy work environment.
Absolutely. And, like you were talking, in your example of your friend, had she not had the courage or the ability or, whatever factors went into her leaving that position, right? Because obviously super unhealthy for her to be in that position, in that situation, mentally, physically, emotionally, all unhealthy, right?
Yeah,
Some people are stuck and they can't just, right? So
exactly.
the long-term effects, like I'm sure she's still going to suffer long-term effects from just the short time exposure. But if we're looking at long-term exposure, 10, 15 years of tolerating this, now we're looking at severe mental health issues, right? We're
Definitely.
looking and possibly, unfortunately, even maybe suicide or workplace violence.
Yes, most definitely. A lot of people are stuck. There aren't other options out there for them, or they don't think there are other options out there for them. So they kind of live with this low level stress and anxiety, kind of a dread of even showing up at work. And yes, over a prolonged period of time, that affects you mentally, physically, and it's just a matter of time before something has to give. Like you said, whether it be unfortunate workplace violence or someone committing suicide or just shutting down, having physical problems or mental issues. Over time that definitely has negative consequences.
Yeah. And I don't, please understand, I'm not making a comparison here. I'm just using this to try to clarify and get a better understanding. A lot of times in a abusive, physically abusive relationship, it's also mentally abusive, physically, mentally, it's all abusive. A lot of times the woman in that relationship is going to be convinced that it's, her fault. It's, um, she can't go anyplace. She's stuck, like you said. She perceives she's stuck, even though she's not, in most cases, yada, yada, yada. That feels similar to me in these situations, almost like these environments have become so toxic and they've become completely abusive. Would that be a fair comparison? Because like the way you described that, that's what triggered this question. Is that sounds like talking to someone in one of these relationships?
Yes, I'm definitely, and I know that she struggled with the idea of leaving for months. It was ongoing for a considerable period of time, but she felt stuck. Like, well, what am I going to do? I need to earn an income. I need to pay my bills, and so she stayed and she stayed and she stayed, and she kept trying to, make it work. Tried to have a voice, tried to tell HR, what was going on more than once. And she was discounted, and it definitely took a toll. And she had to get to the point where it was so bad that she had no choice. And, you never want to have to be in a situation like that. Preferably, had she kind of made plans, maintain her position, get another job in the interim, and then transition. But as it was, she stayed and stayed and stayed until she just got to the point where she couldn't tolerate it anymore and then just left. So, I mean, that left her in a bit of a precarious position. Fortunately, I mean, she's so talented. She landed in another position within a few weeks, so it wasn't a big deal. But there are a lot of people out there that, and the idea of making a big change like that would be a big deal and almost debilitating, to the point of, like you said, just staying like you would, or like people do in these domestic violent situations. They feel like there are no options. They've been told there are no other options. And they're so depleted from the ongoing stress, they don't really have the energy to seek out another option.
Yeah, I think that's important to understand too, is these situations, these environments, they literally suck the juice right out of you. They just
Mhm.
zap you of all your, especially emotional energy. I feel I've never been in a situation like what you're describing. Fortune, thank God, I've never had to do that, but I've seen it, kind of from a distance, I would say. Um, and you can just look at the people and tell, like they just have nothing left to give. Like they're just spent. So what is there anything, you know, I'm assuming your friend came to you and you were trying to advise her the best you could. Well, what advice did you give her that was key in helping her work through this situation?
Yeah, I tried to be as helpful as possible. Ultimately, she had to do the work, and I think one of the things that I kind of tried to pour into her was the fact that she had value because she had been exposed to this for so long. She was beginning to doubt herself and questioning her usefulness, questioning, um, her abilities, and it made it very difficult for her then to think outside the box to entertain the idea that there probably was another position out there. And I encouraged her to kind of revamp her resume, kind of prepare like you would if you were leaving an abusive situation. Um, it's important to have a plan. How are you going to execute? So I encouraged her to redo her resume, which she did, and to put herself out there and kind of feel the waters, test the waters. And there was interest even before she left. So a plan, preparation, getting support from a mental health professional, support from friends. She tried to go the HR route and it didn't work. So, she did everything she could and did come up with a good plan and did make steps to exit the situation.
Right. But I
I know
think, go ahead.
I was going to share my own personal experience in the hospital that I worked at. When I joined the hospital program, there was a CEO that I very much felt good about. His ideas for the company were, basically serve God, serve people, and to create like a kind of a family unit atmosphere. Well, he ended up retiring, and the new CEO that came in was much more about numbers and number crunching. And be what subtly and slowly started to creep in was this idea that we were just tools. The employees were means to an end, and that end was, bigger numbers, getting people in and out of the ER, getting people in and out of the hospital. And it became kind of a toxic environment in the sense that we were dehumanized to a degree. We were just there to get patients in and out, and to do it with cost savings. And so there was a lot of programs that were cut that were there for employees. Healthcare benefits in terms of insurance, their contribution became less. And a lot of things just started to erode, which was demoralizing to everybody who worked there. And sure enough, people started complaining and leaving, and just became worse and worse. And, where they had been at one point very friendly and family-like atmosphere, it became very, very toxic. And I definitely started to notice the effects myself. Got to a point where I dreaded going to work. I felt unappreciated and undervalued. And at one point, I had gotten injured, and they had acted like they were supportive, but when push came to shove, and after I was recovered, they no longer had a position. So this company that was all about serving people and having this supportive atmosphere completely went away. And it really impacted morale, and it impacted the hospital because people started leaving left and right.
Which that in turn impacts customer service, customer retention. It affects your bottom line. It affects your retention rate for your employees. Like you said, people were leaving. That gets expensive. That's one of the biggest costs of all companies is retention, because they have to find new talent, train new talent, and that stuff's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing that companies, or it's mind blowing to me that companies don't focus more. And I don't think it's because companies are lazy. I think it's because they've lost sight of the big picture. But so I want to go back to your friend's scenario, right? I say I am the CEO or VP of sales, and her boss works directly under me. What should I have been looking for? What signs and symptoms should I have been looking for to recognize that was happening in that environment? I understand she went to HR and I'll talk to all these people. Outside of all that, what should I have been looking for?
Well, I think the most obvious thing was a drop in productivity and in the bottom line. She was getting less clientele. And obviously, if you have less clientele, you're going to be selling less. And so she had gone from, top producer every month to a major drop in the figures, and sometimes not even meeting quota. I think right there are some concrete red flags, even outside of the HR situation. I mean, she just literally showed it on the bottom line.
And so, what about um, uh, environment? Like, not environment, but what about like signs and symptoms in regards to uh, the way employees are talking, or maybe gossip? Because almost every toxic environment I've ever witnessed had just horrible gossip problems. Um, things like that. What are there any other things like that that just come hand in hand with those types of environments that you can think of?
Yeah, I think gossip is definitely high on the list. If an employee is disgruntled, chances are they're going to complain to another employee, kind of feeling the waters. Are they alone in this, or do other people feel the same? And the next thing you know, people start coming out of the woodworks about how disgruntled they are as well. And that actually did, happen to some degree where she was at. I know it was happening where I was working at. Every day somebody was complaining about administration and the realistic expectations and the unfair treatment. And
So,
surely that has to catch the ear of management, and then management, they should be communicating with the powers that be above them. And I think in some situations they don't, and they try to micromanage or even ignore the red flags that are out there.
I'm actually glad you said that, because that was going to be my next question is, and you said ignore. And I think 90% of it is going to be that they just ignore it. But I don't think they ignore it because they're horrible, evil people. I think they ignore it because they don't know what to do. So what can we do when it comes to, and not even managers, maybe even colleagues? How do we create a supportive environment where employees feel comfortable disclosing that they're struggling in these stress-filled and anxiety-filled environments, and where people just start to feel safer? And and I say that especially because in my experience in the military, the less safe I felt, the more stressed and anxious I felt, right? So how do we as managers, how do we as colleagues create that supportive environment?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that can be done. As a manager, first and foremost, taking an interest in your employees as people, as opposed to dollar figures or bottom line. investing some time in your employees, taking them aside, asking how they can be of help, coaching them in an area maybe they're weak at, or identifying employees' strengths, having some one-on-one engagement with people, I think is important. Also, being very clear about what the goals of the company are, what the targets are, so that employees aren't left wondering, what is the expectation, or feeling like the expectations are unrealistic, but their manager doesn't know it because the manager isn't communicating with people. If manager gets in there and realizes, wait, I'm putting way too much on this person or this group of people, how can we lessen the workload or distribute the workload so that it's not being carried by just a few? I think that in a lot of companies that happens where, you have your powerhouse people who are doing 90% of the work while others are much less engaged. And so kind of distributing the responsibilities out and, being involved with the people that you manage more closely, as opposed to just looking at it from a distance and just seeing, the numbers, the dollar figures, because that's in and of itself is not enough to know, what's going on the floor. How are people feeling? How are they interacting with one another? Is the work rewarding, or are they just trying to get through the day? We spend most of our life at work, and so fostering an open work environment where people feel supported and heard, and like there's a team effort is crucial. Otherwise, people go to work just get by. And they don't enjoy it. They're not bringing themselves, their authentic self. They're, doing the bare minimum because they just have had it.
Yeah, that's so important because, and I love to use my wife's company as an example, and I'm not going to say their name, but I might have told you on another episode, they take the environment, the culture of their company so serious. My wife was literally told on her very first day in orientation, if you're sensing drama from someone, or if you see someone causing drama, come to us immediately so we can address it. And a lot of times it's just that person needs to go home for the day because they're having a bad day. And so they get to go home. They don't get any attendance marks or anything like that. They got sent home. They're having a bad day. And that literally happens. They take it so serious that they understand the work environment is so important that it is literally ingrained in their employees' heads from day one. We address this, tell us. And in turn, Katie tells me about this work environment all the time where they have fun. They're all friends. They eat together. They do things, like it's that they literally have games at work. So whenever they have downtime, they're playing cornhole or some other game, and no one cares as long as the work's getting done. But of course, the work's getting done because every single employee there cares about the company, and they care about the work.
Company and one another because they fostered a sense of camaraderie, and that is lacking in so many situations. You have to have some team building, some team cohesiveness and engagement, and it can't just be the one time a year Christmas party. It has to be kind of an ongoing situation where people are encouraged to, have a little downtime at work, engage with one another, have a little bit of fun. Like you said, so long as the work is getting done, and not tolerating bad behavior is so important because, there often is that one person who, that one bad apple who spoils the bunch, and that negativity just spreads like wildfire. If that's nipped in the bud, so much heartache can be avoided. And that person needs to know, and the manager and the CEO and the powers that be need to take it seriously. They can't just go, oh, well, that's just the way Joe is. That's not okay if Joe's behavior is adversely affecting everybody else.
Absolutely. And I was talking to somebody about this exact topic, and I had mentioned that, and I was talking about the fact, like, they take it so seriously. Ultimately, if that's you, then you get fired. And the person I was talking to is like, well, that's horrible. They should be trying to rehabilitate that person. Or, and it's like, yeah, we put such a, I think as a culture, we put such, we're so, everything's got to be fair mindseted that we miss the lesson of getting fired sometimes.
Mhm.
Right? Like, that's a pretty valuable lesson. Like, oh, I just lost my job and now I'm in trouble. And then, so let me reflect on that. And it may not happen. And I'm not saying like their first response should be instantly to fire somebody, but firing someone is not bad. Firing
Mhm.
someone for the wrong reason is bad. But just, if someone's toxic and they're like you said, the bad apple spoiling the bunch, that is a valid reason to fire somebody. That's a good
Yeah.
reason.
I'm all for trying to mitigate the problem, address the problem, get the person some help. But ultimately, if things don't shift and change, you can't let that go on indefinitely. It will definitely create toxicity in the environment, and people will suffer as a result.
Right.
And
And
it's not good for the customers either.
no, right. That hurts customer retention. I've literally been in stores / companies where they had just a toxic work environment. And as soon as you walk through their doors, you felt that negative energy. And you're just like, I don't like being here. I
Yeah,
don't, I don't want to be here. I'm going to go someplace else.
definitely.
And that, yeah, that's a very valid point that gets missed a lot. And I also want to point out the fact that this culture that we're talking about, that this company has, it didn't happen overnight. It happened very intentionally, and it happened over the years. And now it's to the point, like, they've been in this practice for so long. The the powers that be, the managers, the team leaders, the CEO, the vice presidents, the directors, they don't even really have to do anything anymore. All they have to do is supervise, enforce, and encourage, because the employees now are so inundated with this culture that as new employees come in, they're teaching that culture to the new people. And
Beautiful.
it's just natural. It's like a recycling culture mindset. Basically, all the leaders have to do is ensure that those bad apples get weeded out before they can infect the bunch. That's really all they have left to do. Is no longer them being proactively, intentionally creating this environment, because that's how it started. That's what they had to do in the very beginning. But now that that's ingrained into the employees, I would say almost indoctrinated into the employees, that now they're teaching, just like you have an oldest child and a youngest child, the oldest child is going to teach that youngest child more than you ever will as the parent.
Right, right.
So, the same principle. And this happened over a series of 20, 30 years. So, what else uh, can someone do leadership wise to create, like, how did they go about creating this environment in the very beginning? What were some of the things you think they did?
So I think one of the things is that they're clear about the company values, and there is adherence to those values in the day-to-day operation. So if your mission statement says that your company values integrity and honesty, etc., and yet you're not operating with integrity, or you're not honest, the employee is going to see that as, you know, they don't even take their own values seriously,
Right.
and getting a buy-in for the company values, seeing that those values are enacted in day-to-day operations, and then bringing the employee in and showing them, here's where the company came from, here's where we're going, and here's your place in it. I think is important. If you don't feel like you make a difference, that you're dispensable, the effort level might be lacking. Whereas if you see where the company's going, you see where you add value, you're going to be encouraged to want to do more. And then if you're seeing that company is operating with the values that they claim, such as integrity, all the more reason to want to work for that company. Nobody wants to work for a company that or a business where they don't feel like they matter, or they feel like the company's operating a little bit underhanded, where there's a disconnect between the mission statement and the reality. How do you buy into a company where the integrity isn't there?
Absolutely. And you can't. And most of these environments that I've experienced within working with companies to fix this problem, a lot of the times it is just that their leaders aren't adhering to the values, the morals, the mission. Like they just aren't adhering. They're like you said, kind of underhanded, which instantly creates a toxic environment. That takes no time at all to spread and absolutely destroy company culture. Like that, it'll happen almost overnight. And I think it's funny because I just literally had this thought as I said that, in the Army we had a saying, it only takes one screw up to get rid of all your attaboys. Like you go through your entire military career building up those attaboys, those good jobs, but just one screw up will erase them all. Right. So same for a company, like they have this mission statement, they have these values. One toxic leader with that is underhanded and doesn't represent these values, the entire culture is gone. It just wipes it out clean. And I think it's very important that the C-suite or the business owners recognize that that's how it works, and that's how important it is, right? If it's easily destroyed, 9 times out of 10 it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And it's pretty important, right? Like look at all the fancy things we have in our house. How easy is it? The most expensive things, they're so delicate. If I don't know if you've ever thought of that, but in most cases it's true. So I mean, look at it. Look at the iPhone. Prime example here. You drop your iPhone once, what happens? The screen is completely busted.
Right.
My iPhone was like $1,400. However, I had this phone. I don't remember what it was called, but it was a Nokia and it was a flip phone. It's my very first cell phone. I literally threw that cell phone. I got mad one day and I threw that phone up, open, mind you. It was open when I threw it up against a brick wall.
Uh-oh.
And then I picked it up and continued yelling at whoever I was talking to. And that was like a $60 phone. So, I mean, that's just kind of a funny, facetious point, but it's true. It's that important and it's that delicate. And it is definitely, if you screw it up, that expensive. So I kind of want to shift gears though a little bit, Dr. Christy, and I want to focus on the jobs that are just inherently stressful. They're just inherently full of anxiety because that's just the nature of the work. And there's nothing you're ever going to do about it. In fact, we talked last week about how in the military, like we get so used to, like career soldiers, we get so used to the stress of just our day-to-day job that it's actually unhealthy when we leave it and are instantly removed from that stress.
Mhm.
It causes physical and mental problems in our bodies. It's insane
Mhm.
to me that's how it happens, but it is. So, these jobs, there's nothing you can do about it. So what are some ways leaders can create these environments to support the mental health and physical well-being of their employees that work in these just inherently stressful and anxious jobs?
Sure. And there's plenty of them out there, right? Like you mentioned earlier, firefighters, police officers, military, healthcare, and so on. You know, stress is inevitable. And in most situations, there's going to be a time crunch at times. There's going to be a surge in, clients coming in. So what can the leaders do is, first of all, make it known that there are programs within the company to help people with their stress. A lot of companies have your employee assistance programs, and kind of reminding people that that's available to them, but also having consideration for people's work-life balance and really encouraging people to uh, not be all about work, remembering that people have lives outside of work, and, encouraging people to enjoy their life. And what do I mean by that? Well, that's where the management needs to be involved with your people, check in from time to time. Don't wait until there's a problem, pull your employees aside and say, hey, how's it going here? Is there anything I can do to help make it easier? What kind of things are you doing at home? Are you de-stressing? And kind of giving people permission to share their frustrations, and then encouraging people to, get help if they need more concrete help, or at least to strike a balance with work and their life. Maybe encourage a personal day here and there, if necessary. Don't wait until the employee is at their wit's end. Build in downtime if possible in the workday. Yeah, people have their lunch breaks, but maybe like your wife's company, they have some downtime where they can go play a game or just interact and socialize a little bit. It doesn't have to be every second, every day focused on getting the job done. There needs to be a little bit of downtime, because people are going to be more productive if they have a little mental break and then can come back to it. I mean, even in medicine, we're busy from the time, we get there to the time we leave. And there was a time where I would just push. I didn't take a lunch break. I didn't take a moment to breathe, and I always kept saying, well, after I get this done, or after I do that, then I'll take a minute for myself. Well, that minute never comes. And then your concentration level drops, and it actually becomes harder to do the job and more stressful because you're depleted. So I needed to purposefully build in, like at 10 a.m., I take a 5-minute, disconnect and maybe walk out of the department, go get something to drink, just kind of let my mind rest for a second. And then when I come back, I'm more energized. So encouraging a little bit of downtime here and there, not being so strict about, oh, it has to be during your lunch, or you got this 15 minutes here, but kind of letting people be a little bit more fluid, doing their work, taking time, doing their work. Letting them know that it's okay to not go 100 miles an hour from the minute they step in the door till the minute they leave.
Right. And you hit the nail on the head, I think, with productivity. They're going to be more productive. Again, with my wife's company is the example, where and it's not even an everyday occurrence. It's just every once in a while, one of the leaders brings out a cornhole board and they play a game.
Yeah, there you go.
And that, like you said, that increases your productivity drastically, knowing that I need to go de-stress. I can go take 5-10 minutes and get a cup of coffee and just stand in the cafeteria for a few minutes, drink my coffee, let my mind settle, and then go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And and my wife's company, that is perfectly okay. In fact, the leaders, the managers, they don't even hover over the employees. They have a set, this is what you have to get done today.
Mhm.
They know what they have to get done today, and they know there are adverse consequences if they don't get it done. And they kind of, in the military, we called it the big boy rules. You have to act like a big boy, right? You don't get to have a supervisor 24/7. So, and that's how they treat, in essence, they treat their employees like adults and say, hey, this is your work to get done today. Go get it done. How you get it done? You have some say so in that.
Mhm.
And that work environment, that culture, if you maintain it correctly and you're proactive, as you said, not reactive, you're proactive with it, you're going to create the most productive work environment. And, in example A, where they have this environment, your employees, they work 10 hours a day, but they're actually only working maybe 8 of those hours or 7 of those hours, and they're still going to be more productive than another team doing the exact same job that is working 12 hours a day, 100 miles an hour all day long.
Exactly. And it works if you also keep people accountable. Like you said, this is what needs to get done. How you get it done is up to you. But then if there is a lack of production, if you would, maybe somebody takes advantage of the downtime, then there needs to be consequences. You can't just then put it off on other people to take up the slack,
Right. Then that's just going to create another toxic environment
Right.
where people are getting abused again. And I just think it's so important. And it's, it, I think it's very sad that that has become a novelty almost in our society, that places like this, like my wife's place to work, like that's a novelty nowadays, right? Like that doesn't exist hardly anymore. And I think that's very sad.
Mhm.
And so, what are some resources organizations can offer their employees, that they should offer their employees, to help with maybe mental health programs, or just physical health programs? Maybe should they offer like maybe a mental health day? Or I know some companies do that. I know a lot of companies, my wife's included, they're starting to put gyms inside their facilities to
Mhm.
promote physical health. Um, what are some things you would recommend that you would like to see companies start doing almost immediately?
Yeah, I think encouraging wellness, whether it be mental and or physical, as a culture, that's something that people do together, can be very powerful. I know when I first hired in at one of the facilities I worked at, they had free to the employees access to all the gym that they had, all the programs that they had. And there were challenges at times for people to meet their nutrition goals or their weight loss goals, or kind of as a company culture of wellness. People were encouraged to engage and to participate. And then in terms of bringing that in terms of mental wellness, encouraging maybe a mental health day, being engaged with your people so you kind of can see where they're coming from. How are they doing with their peers? What is their productivity? Are they showing signs of maybe depression or anxiety? Are they showing up late consistently? Is their productivity dropping? Keeping an eye on things like that so you can take that person aside and say, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? I want you to know, here's some resources. We have an employee assistance program, or encouraging them if they need, hey, it's okay if you need to get some help. If you need to have a day during the week or time carved out in your schedule, say to go to a counselor or to go to some kind of support group, we'll help, we'll work with you. Making it acceptable as opposed to not available or having to hide it.
Right. And that's actually, and I promise people, Dr. Christie has not seen my questions that I'm asking because I have a list of questions I wanted to ask her and she has not seen it, but she's segued beautifully into my next question unintentionally, which is there is such a stigma around mental health, even though we say there's not, and we have all these slogans. What is it? Defeat the stigma. Um, like it doesn't actually like it's all lip service, if you will. Like it doesn't actually mean anything. There are no teeth behind all these moves to defeat the stigma. At least there didn't used to be. Maybe it's getting a little bit better now, but I doubt it's much because I've not been out of the military that long, and you know, as most people know, veteran suicide, military suicide is incredibly high, and the military would go on these long campaigns of mental health awareness, mental health involvement. It's okay to get help when you need it. It's not going to affect your career. Yada yada yada. In the long run, bull. That's crap. It is going to affect my career. It is
Right.
going to affect my promotions. And the military is kind of a bad example because you kind of got to be mentally stable in the military. Like, you know, if you're not mentally stable, maybe we don't want you to be, you know, in charge of millions of dollars worth of explosives. Um, that could be bad. So I do understand the complexity of the problem the military faces, but in a lot of companies, that same thing of, hey, look, if you need mental help, it's okay. We're not going to judge you as we quietly judge you. I feel like that's the culture and the mindset in most companies. How do we how do we break that? Because a company needs to be open to its employees, like you said. If I work for said company, if I work for Dr. Christie Incorporated, and I come to you and I'm like, Dr. Christie, I'm going through a divorce, and my wife just took my kids from me, and my kids, because you know me, and you know that my kids are the single most important thing in the world to me, and they just got ripped from my life. I'm not doing good. Right? So how do we get to an environment where it's okay for me to come to you with this? And I'm not scared of losing my job. I'm not scared of losing the chance of getting promoted or moving up in the company. I'm not scared of being judged.
Mhm.
Right? How do we get to that place?
Powerful question and powerful examples. So I think one of the problems is people have their head in the sand, and the military has their head in the sand. If they think everybody that is serving at any given moment is completely emotionally solid and stable, they're misinformed, because people are people. Humans, have stress in life. Humans have problems, and just like you can be prone to spraining your ankle, you can be prone to having some issues with depression or anxiety, and to pretend that it's not out there and then to punish people when it surfaces is ridiculous. um First of all, I think there has to be kind of an acknowledgement that it's there. Pretending that it's not there is not going to make it go away.
Mhm.
um and so much of the problem also lies in the ongoing stigma. A lot of people hold the mindset that, it's a sign of weakness. It's not viewed like any other medical problem, like, say, high blood pressure or diabetes. It's viewed as a character defect. And so, a lot of management, the upper level people, maybe don't even have the education to realize, no, these things exist, and they're not character defects. They're not flaws in your employees. These are potentially real problems that people face. And just like you offered the gym for physical wellness, perhaps you need to offer some services for mental wellness beyond the EAP. Maybe having speakers come in from time to time and normalizing some of what people might be struggling with. Having a culture where you're not demoted, or you're not considered for a promotion because you have an anxiety problem or a depression problem, but like you said, so oftentimes it does affect your career. It does affect your ability to get promoted or to maintain your job. And that's a huge fear that people have. And so they don't get the help. And so they get worse. And it's just this big mushrooming problem. Whereas if companies could say, hey, look, we realize that this could be something you're struggling with, and it's okay to get help, as opposed to being afraid you're going to lose your job. I mean, that would go a long way in preventing that, snowball.
I was actually just about to ask you, because in the military it is important, right? Like, and please don't, everybody listening, I'm not beating up on the military. I understand the need for mental stability in the military because it's a dangerous job. People's lives literally count on you. Like, and you have the power of taking life in a lot of situations. You can't be unhinged. It's just part of it. And so my question to you is going to be, well, okay, so how do we balance it, right? Because we understand a lot of jobs, especially as you get promoted, I've always joked, the higher of a position you hold, like all that means, it doesn't mean less work. It just means more stress.
Yeah.
Right. And in most cases, I'd say actually 99.9999 continued cases, that's true. And so how do we balance it to where we understand the reality? This person cannot go to this war zone because they're just not mentally okay right now. But at the same time, it's okay that this person isn't mentally okay because we're going to fix this person. And I don't like using the word fix because that implies they're broken, and they're not broken, but I can't think of a better word than fix. So that's the word I use. But we're going to fix this person and then get him back, reintegrate him into where he's supposed to be, and let him continue his career. That's pretty much what you said, right?
Yeah, and I want to go a little step further. So in the military, correct me if I'm wrong, there are physical activities that are done on a regular basis to keep somebody's body fit. Is that correct?
Every single day.
Right. So it's very proactive. You don't throw somebody out on the battlefield who can't run a mile, right?
Absolutely not.
So you have a program in place where physical fitness is an ongoing activity.
And regularly tested to make sure you're meeting the standards.
Why can't we do the same with mental wellness? Be proactive as opposed to reactive.
That's such a good point. Why can't we?
Have the mental health professionals come in and do some education, have some ongoing, I'm thinking military here, some ongoing check-ins, maybe they're fine and they're not struggling, but why not have people engaged in mental wellness activities before they have a problem? So maybe we can avoid the problem to begin with,
So, I mean, going back to the physical health, part of in the military or police or firefighters, part of our physical routine isn't just to make it so we can run a mile in combat and survive, right? Like a lot of it is also resilience, right? Our bodies are able to take this extra load, this extra abuse, and not break because we've slowly built the resilience to be able to do these things.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's considered to be the world's toughest man. He's a former Navy SEAL named David Goggins, and the dude is practically invincible. But he didn't get there overnight.
Right.
It took years and years of training his body, training his mind to build up this resilience to where he's just tough. And anybody can do that, right? Anybody can build up that resilience if they're proactive and they're doing the things they need to do to build that resilience.
Right. So much of mental health or lack thereof is reactive. We wait till there's a problem to get treatment. We wait until we're at our wits' end. What if we practice resilience training mentally before or to avoid decompensation, dysregulation?
Right.
I know one company where they offer before the day gets started a time of guided meditation and not yoga, but like guided meditation, where everybody can come in and kind of start the day with a relaxed, calm mindset. That's just one example. But I think teaching, education, we could go a long way. Like team building is one thing, but having some time for education and resilience training, I think would be important. I think it's lacking, really. We talk a lot about physical wellness, but not mental wellness.
I agree completely. And, I think it's funny because it almost seems backwards, right? Because if you're depressed, do you want to go to the gym?
Yeah, good point.
If you're depressed, do you want to eat healthy?
Right.
Like if you're depressed, and I've never suffered from like long, serious bouts of depression. I'm blessed in that regard. I have been, I have suffered from some depression, like when I left the military and stuff. And I know people have heard me talk about that, but it was pretty quick, and I realized what was happening fairly quick, and so I was able to get the help I needed to recover. It wasn't easy, but there I'm comparing myself to people that have suffered for years and years of depression, which has not been me. And so, but I mean, I know when I was going through that, I didn't I didn't want to exercise. I didn't want to eat healthy. I didn't give a crap. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to go home and mope
Right.
and just completely deconnect from the world and just be left alone. That's all I wanted. So I think it's weird that it's all backwards. Like we're physical health, physical health. If you're physically healthy, you'll be mentally healthy. But what about if you're mentally healthy, you'll be physically healthy?
Of course, you'll be more inclined to do the things that are you know good self-care. You'll be interested in your well-being. You'll be interested in your physical wellness. If you are depressed or anxious and you don't care, I mean, that's going to impact how you take care of your body.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but your mental state has a direct impact on your physical state,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Like
the mind-body
even
connection goes both ways, definitely.
right. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the mental resilience and mental health is more important than the physical. I think what we're ultimately getting at here, Dr. Christie, is they're equally important and they equally need to be addressed and strengthened on a daily basis.
It definitely it takes intentional input to maintain emotional resilience and to gain emotional intelligence, which so many people are lacking. They don't even know how to take care of their emotional needs. They don't even know what their emotional needs are, some people.
So, how do you identify your emotional needs?
So that's a good question. I actually have an exercise in my program where I help people identify what they need, because I remember being asked that question. Well, when I was in the throes of depression, like, what do you need? I had no idea. I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you value? I don't know. I mean, everything was, I don't know. I don't even know what my needs are. So kind of taking a step back and working through what do you hold dear? What do you value? What's important to you? Identify one or two things so that you have something to look forward to or to work toward. Like for me, I valued, ultimately came to the conclusion that I valued freedom. And for me, what was freedom? It was no debt, no guilt, and more time. I had a student loan debt that was hanging over me for years, and it was impacting my outlook on my job. It was impacting my outlook on medicine in general. And I made a concerted effort, like, look, this needs to go away. I'm now going to prioritize getting out of that student loan debt. So no debt and no guilt around taking care of me, not being the one doing everything for everybody, not being manipulated by other people's desires and wants and shortcomings, but kind of taking a hold of myself and saying, I'm going to do what I need to do to take care of me. And I'm not going to be guilted into doing anything less than that. And then more time, I spent a lot of time at work. I took on extra shifts and responsibilities, and I had to set a boundary with myself and say, I need more time for me. And so I started making little baby steps to freedom. And those steps, built upon each other. And ultimately I got out of debt. I'm not guilted into doing things I don't want to do anymore. And I have more time. So identifying a core value, something that you can take action toward, is one step or one tool to get you to that point where you're getting your needs addressed and you're not in reaction mode, but you're in proactive mode of reaching towards your goals and your values.
Wow. Excuse me. That is great advice. I don't know what to say. I need to do that. I think, I guess we all need to do that consciously, over and over again, right? Because it's not something you did just to get yourself out of the position you're in. You still do it, right?
Yeah.
You still practice it.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's just like
just
running.
I was just going to say, it's like lifting weights. You build up your biceps because you're in the gym all the time. Well, if you take a hiatus from the gym, those biceps are going to get weak again. Same thing with our mental actions, what we do for our mental health. They have to be reinforced. You have to keep making strides in positive self-care, in emotion regulation, and checking in with your values on an ongoing basis. You can't just wait until there's a problem.
Wow. So you were talking about your program. Let's go ahead and talk about that. And I know on the past two episodes, like the audience can tell the story. Like, Dr. Christy had a client that suffered from crippling anxiety, and then after just a couple of weeks working Dr. Christy, he went to Disney and didn't have any panic attacks. So I mean, like, they know the story, Dr. Christy, but if they haven't heard that story, let's go ahead and tell them what your program looks like, and then tell them how they can get a hold of you and get a hold of this amazing program you've developed.
Sure. So I developed a program largely out of my own experience. I had mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and I did all the standard things. And I felt like there was something lacking. I never could get to a point where I could pivot. I kind of remained stuck in the problem as opposed to in the solution. And so what I did is I combined my years of clinical experience as a therapist and a physician and my own personal experience, my own personal research, and I put together a high yield program. It's a 12-week program. You can stay longer if you want, but it's a 12-week program with each step that I've created building upon the one before to give you actionable tools, actionable steps that you can take to break free from anxiety, break free from depression, make a life, a future for your success, for yourself that maybe you can't even envision right now because you're so steeped in the anxiety and depression. I help address mindset, physical needs, spiritual needs. So I've put together a comprehensive program for all that, and that's what I have.
It's amazing. And I want to point out, you were talking about you can stay longer if you need to, but you've developed it for this specific amount of time. Is that because you believe that's all the time that's needed for this program, or is that because that's what you feel is tolerable for this program?
I think 12 weeks, 12 lessons is a good point to stop at. Plus, I packed those 12 lessons full of materials that are high yield. So by the time you reach the end of the 12 weeks, you have a huge tool bag that you can draw from. Does it stop at 12 weeks? No. You have to continue to implement those tools, to practice those tools, to do the self-care, to do the affirmations, to do the steps. But it's geared toward, getting you the tools, as many as possible in a 12 lesson period of time. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to process through everything and get to a perfect endpoint in 12 weeks, but you're going to have a great start and a great foundation. And that can be reinforced by continuing to continue to participate in the group coaching and the group art experiences and the forums where you can reinforce those lessons and those actions. But I wanted to put together a package that wasn't overwhelming, that, had an endpoint in mind so people could realize, hey, I don't need to be doing this for 10 years.
Right. And that's ultimately why I asked that question, because I, like you, in all my therapy sessions, felt like this is my life. This is the rest of my life. This is what I do every Wednesday night for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I come talk to this person, and I really honestly don't like this person in my experience. And I just didn't want, and ultimately for me, I quit. I just quit. I said, you know what? I'll deal with my demons myself. And thank God I had the structure and the foundation underneath me to withstand all that and come out on top. But many people don't have what I had. I'm very blessed that I had what I needed. Many people don't have it. And I love your program because that program is providing those people what I had. And I think it's amazing. I think it's a blessing. And I'm so thankful that someone like you finally realized, like, this system's broken and we need a fix, because it is broken and it does need fixed. And I'm just so thankful for it. And I tell all my friends about it in the military, like, hey, if you got a soldier, man, I know a lady, and she's a killer. Completely confidential. Like, don't have to worry about it getting back to the military. But yeah, so how do people get a hold of you if they're listening and they're like, huh, I'm interested? Maybe they have a family member, or maybe them themselves feel like they need to go through your program. Tell them how they can get in touch with you and find you.
Sure, be happy to. So my website is www.doggonedepression.com. And if you wanted to email me, my email is christy@doggonedepression.com. And my Christy is spelled CHRISTY. You can check out the website. There's some free tips on there you can download and learn more about me, learn more about the program. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
That is fantastic. And of course, Dr. Christy, your website and your email and all your socials and pretty much anything I can find, I will link to you in the show notes and on my social and on my website and everything else you can think of. I will make it as accessible for my audience to find you as I can. Be assured in that. So, and I'm going to, of course, give you the final word here in a minute, Dr. Christy, but I do want to take a second and share something a little personal from the heart. And that is, listen, people, I don't care. Some of the toughest people I've ever met in my life took their own life. It doesn't matter how strong you think you are. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. We're all, I considered myself the toughest of the tough, and I still had to fight demons. Like, it is what it is. It's okay. It's not weakness. It's not scary. It's not bad. You're not broken. I know everyone thinks you're broken and talks to you like you're broken and tries to handle you with care, like you're some fragile thing. You're not. You have messed up neural pathways in your brain, and you just need someone to point it out to you and help you fix it. But you're not broken. Get the help you need, whether it's Dr. Christy, whether if you're in the military or a veteran and it's the VA, or it doesn't matter. Find somebody. Maybe it's a preacher or maybe it's the freaking Pope. I don't care. Find someone to talk to and get the help you need, because this is a real issue. Many people, too many people, take their life every single day. I hate it. I hate suicide. I hate it all. It is evil. It is the worst thing in the world, and it needs to be ended. And we're only going to do that when we just stop being scared of it. It's okay. I tell people about my depression all the time. I'm not scared. If they judge me, they're idiots. Let them judge me. I don't care. Like, and I say they're idiots because they are stupid to sit there and think that they are mentally better off than I am. Because I guarantee you, they have their mental problems too. And it's showing in the fact that they're judging me. Actually, I shouldn't even call them idiots. I should pity them. I should feel bad for them. So my point to this long rant, ladies and gentlemen, is it's okay, and just get help. Just talk to somebody. And I'm always available. My contact information is on my website, and I am always available. And I guarantee you, I'll get back into touch with you within 8 to 12 hours, guaranteed. So reach out to me. I don't care if I don't know you. We'll have a conversation, and we'll figure out a plan. That's how passionate I am about all this. And that's how important I believe it is. And I know Dr. Christy agrees with me 100%. So with all that being said, Dr. Christy, I just wanted to say that because it's important to me that my guest gets the final word. So what's your final piece of wisdom on how people can lead like champions?
Just want to say, if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, mental illness, you're not alone. Help is available.
Absolutely. It is. And it is okay to get. There's even free help. If you can't afford it, there is free help. Like, there is no excuse, zero excuse of why you can't get help. Dr. Christy, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I know it was long. I know it was tiring. I know it wasn't easy, but we managed to record all these episodes, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because like I said, this is a very passionate thing for me. It's very near and dear to my heart. I've had many friends commit suicide. I've seen many of my friends struggle with this. I myself have struggled, and so it's just so important to me, and I thank you so much again from the bottom of my heart for being here and doing this with me.
You're so very welcome. I'm honored. Thank you.
All right, everybody, that wraps up the series, and it wraps up this week's episode of the Renowned Leadership Podcast. I truly hope you got the most you could out of this series. I hope it blessed you and brought value to your life. And again, thank you so much for listening. I will see you next week with a brand new episode. And don't forget, everybody, lead like a champion. Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained some really valuable insights from our conversations with top industry leaders and experts. And don't forget to head over to renownedleadership.com to download our free checklist that is specifically designed to help military veterans transition from the military to their new corporate jobs. You can find it at renownedleadership.com. We're also so excited to announce our partnership with the Career Winners Circle, a top executive coaching company with incredible resources for their clients and top-notch coaches. You can learn more about them at careerwinnerscircle.com. And if you're interested in taking your leadership skills to the next level, don't forget to schedule your complimentary coaching consultation with me at renownedleadership.com. And I really hope you guys got a lot out of today's podcast with Dr. Christy. I hope you enjoyed listening to her wisdom and all the things she has to share with us about anxiety. Next week, we're going to be talking about stress and the effect it has on us on our workplace and on our personal lives. We're going to be talking about ways to mitigate stress, especially in the workplace as leaders. And so I hope you guys tune in next week. Don't forget to go check out Dr. Christy at doggonedepression.com. Again, that's doggonedepression.com. Go check her out. She has an amazing program that's getting people results in months rather than years of the traditional therapy. So if you know somebody or you yourself are in need of getting some help with anxiety and stress and depression, highly recommend Dr. Christy. Go check her out. Again, doggonedepression.com. Of course, all her links are going to be in the bio, or the podcast show notes. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. It's going to be in the show notes. And so make sure you hop down into the show notes, check out all her socials, give her some love, and while you're at it, hop over to renownedleadership.com. I'm on YouTube at Renowned Leadership, Instagram at Renowned Leadership, Facebook at Renowned Leadership, so you can find me on all of them, especially LinkedIn at Renowned Leadership or Stephen J. Morris. And make sure you go follow me, give me some likes, and give me some love as well. I appreciate everybody's support. Love you guys, and remember, lead like a champion.